How many are familiar with a brilliant teacher named Neville? If you haven't discovered the work of Neville, he was an early 20th century teacher and philosopher, simply went by the name Neville. He wrote a book in 1952. It was called The Power of Awareness. It's a simple book. Each chapter is about a page and a half long, and you'll read that chapter and you'll think about it for 2 weeks. Really powerful stuff. 1952, Neville wrote The Power of Awareness, and his stated intention, he said, the reason I am writing this book is, quote, he said, to reveal our infinite power against which no earthly force is of the slightest significance. Think about that. Neville described this power in us, and he used a catch-all term called belief. And I know you all have heard a lot about belief. I know belief means something different, deep and personal to everyone in this room. For the purpose of what we're doing, I'd like to define belief as a marriage of thought and emotion. And if you're going to ask me the question, what's the difference between thought and emotion? I'm going to get to that in just a minute. The marriage between thought and emotion. When we are marrying our thoughts and our emotion, what we do is we are literally translating the invisible energy or the waves of a quantum possibility into the visible matter or the particles of our real world. Quantum physicists tell us that there's a field of energy that connects everything, and in that field, all things are possible. Everything that you could ever imagine is possible in that field. Everything from the lightest of the light to the darkest of the dark. All the greatest pain and suffering and all the ecstasy and the joy and the abundance and the healing. And this is why I believe so many of our most cherished and ancient traditions say very clearly that you are already healed. Your healing has already happened in this field. This field is the blueprint for everything that happens in our world. The healing's already happened. What we must do is claim that blueprint for our lives. And the way we do it is in our minds, we think of the possibility of our healing or our peace or our abundance or our perfect relationship or our perfect success or our perfect careers. And into that thought, we pump the power of our love for that thought, or our fear, or our hate for what it is. And when we do that, that is how we translate the waves of possibility into the particles of what we call reality. Now, when we marry something that we're thinking about with the power of our love or our hate for that something, what happens is we create what we call a feeling. And by definition, feeling now is the union of thought and emotion. Does that make sense? You okay with that? We think about something, and into that thought, we fuel it. We imbue it with life through the power of our love or our hate for that thing. Does that make sense? You okay with that? When we do that, what's the one energy center that hasn't been accounted for? Our heart. And this is why the language of the heart is literally the language that allows us to create in our world. It's from our hearts where the ancients say this great battle happens. The battle between what we feel in our emotions, or what our emotions are saying to us, and what logic is dictating. They come together and the great battle happens right here in the 7-layer liquid crystal oscillator that we call the human heart. And when we do that, by definition now, we have feelings. Fear is a feeling. Sadness is a feeling. Joy, compassion, those are feelings. And those become our beliefs. And those experiences are the language that we use to create with. So when you ask the question, who are we? I can say that you and I are literally reality makers. We're transformers. We transform the possibilities that we can't see into the things that are real in our lives. The key is, however, that we can make only what we believe. Isn't that interesting? We can make only what we believe. So the new discoveries in science now confirm that we're not limited by those laws of biology. We're not limited by the laws of physics, at least the way we've come to understand them today. So the question, the great question in science, are you and I simply passive observers, cruising through life, with very little effect on our world, on our universe, on one another? Or are we powerful creators? This is the great quandary that science is struggling with right now.